Hello guys, Sendou here, and today I'm bringing you a video which is titled Why is Dapple Dualies the future? And yeah, for sure I'm here to give you really good reasons why this weapon is at least in my future, and maybe it should be in your future as well. I think it has great potential right now, and I don't see too many people play them yet, so I think that's why I want to make this video. And I'm just gonna go through list of reasons why I rate this weapon so highly, and yeah, then you can decide for yourself if you agree or not. But for sure, like, the biggest reason, and also the reason why I started playing this weapon, is the beacon, the sub weapon for this weapon. And like Nike said, he wants to see a beacon weapon for Moray when we defend, so we can put them like on our side and really easily get to around the map. But honestly, beacons are really good on many maps, so very common like placements for me on this map. What I've been doing in squads is these placements here. And honestly, like, this is really wide map. It takes a long time for me to reach like all the way over here, which allows me to, you know, go here and attack their side really well. And you can see, like, I mean, these beacons here. Like, what is the reason for beacon existing, right? So, why beacon exists in the first place? It cuts down the respawn time of your team, basically. Like, that's the first reason for them to exist. Another reason, also for sure, like, when you are about to lose control, and so to speak, like, you start going down people, you're less likely to, you know, lose full control if you have beacons to jump back to. Like, if you frontline and jump to this beacon here, it's really like effective flank right away, like, because I don't necessarily see it. Like, this is really hard beacon to see in most cases, the one that's below here. And definitely I think beacons are super underrated at the moment, and part of it is because there's not really any good beacon weapons. Like, obviously, really like obviously good beacon weapons. There's Tentaprella, but it's too slow. It has a speed debuff, and it just doesn't really make too much sense for the weapon. There's also custom melee eater that just came out, actually just before I made this video. They announced they're gonna bring out custom melee eater in just I believe 15 hours or so. And there's also crack controller, but to really like you know, show the difference between this weapon and crack controller, you can see like what I've been doing this whole game, which is like inking, and this is like the main difference between this weapon and the Kraken roller, at least in my mind. Like, you can slay with the Kraken roller, but there's no way you can like ink this much, and in such a short time. This weapon is really good at inking, I think, and that's what I think will allow it to exist. Because honestly, like, always the problem if you run a weapon that doesn't ink. That means other weapons in your team have to compensate, and likely that's not gonna happen. So that's definitely a big factor of this weapon. And yeah, being a dualist and all, of course you can like ignore the dashing mechanism, which is of course huge. So you can use it to do fast falls, which I do a lot of Moray. But also, like, you know, all kinds of like 1v1s. So just to demonstrate in the test range here, you know, all kinds of 1v1s, this is gonna be your like #1 weapon to utilize. Like, for example, like what I do sometimes is when I come across a Luna Blaster, which is like normally a matchup I would lose, I can actually use the dashing mechanism to get behind him really fast. And like, most people like are really bad at this kind of movement, like flicking 180 backwards. But you can like get a head start on them with the time in the dash. And in the recent patch, they reduced the end lag for dash, which means I can move like faster after dashing, which is super useful. Like, it makes the weapon feel so much better to me, at least. And yeah, like, dashing mechanism is something like I really need to get better with, especially like the, you know, the aiming after it, but also like, you know, how to dash exactly, and how to dash against different weapons. But I think this is something that allows this weapon to exist for a long time, with people finding new ways to improve with it. So it's not like a what I would call a low skill ceiling weapon, which means like you will hit the skill ceiling, like you can't improve with the weapon anymore after a while. I think like there definitely has a lot to discover about this weapon, and that's really exciting to me as well. And we talked about beacon, but of course we can't ignore the bomb rush. This weapon has to be the fastest flat bomb rush or suction bomb rush in the game. So there is coiling bomb rush, of course, with aerospray, and that has to be the fastest, but that's a bit different thing than what you get with suction bomb rush, which allows you to really like well push in area, or like even like defend a push. I think like curling bomb rush as it's so different. Like it's not the same thing as suction bomb rush and splat bomb rush, and this weapon here is the fastest suction bomb rush in the game for sure. So that's definitely not something you can ignore. And also like, well, it's a game of fast kill times, and well, this is pretty fast kill time when you nail your shots. So that's of course something you cannot ignore. It's a bit short range weapon, I agree, but I also think the dashing mechanism compensates for this somewhat. It's not like that bad. And honestly, like most of the time, you should be playing more of a support role with this weapon, putting down beacons and making ground, getting bomb rushes and so on. But definitely, you can like go offensive. It's definitely possible, I think. And I think that's about the video. Hope you guys liked it. And if you want to see more game footage, you can let me know. Like usually, why I spend so much time in the test range and so on is because I want to like demonstrate something specific about the weapon and so on, and like of course in the real match I can really like stop playing and start showing something. But yeah, I appreciate the feedback regardless, and see you guys next time.